And basically, the way the Ignite works, a national group, they actually have workshops across the country. It's sort of an unusual presentation format in that it's set up really by a number of slides. Presenters are given 20 slides, so you develop your slideshow around 20 slides. And those slides auto-advance every 15 seconds. So it's sort of an interesting presentation format. I haven't done this before. And the execs asked that I sort of start us off with an Ignite presentation. Well, it's sort of an unusual title slide, but this was a text message I got from Carla and Davina this morning, where I was described as being critical and aloof. And really what 5 to 1 comes down to is we ask ourselves a question, when I interact with others, do I have a positive impact or do I have a negative impact? And really the answer is probably both. And the thing that we want to keep in mind is that our goal is to have a 5 positive to 1 negative interaction ratio. Well, where does the 5 to 1 come from? Well, this is one study by Losado and Heafy in 2004, where they looked at high-performing, medium-performing, and low-performing teams. And they videotaped them during their strategic planning session. And they found that the high-performing teams were hitting that 5 to 1 ratio. The other line of research is John Gottman. And John Gottman looked at couples, and they tried to predict divorce rates. And for the couples who didn't divorce, they had a positivity ratio of 5 to 1. And then there's particular behavior patterns that predicted divorce. And so if you do things like label others like lazy, dumb, if you swear at them, roll your eyes at them, don't listen to their opinions, or just don't even respond to people, that's very predictive of divorce. Now, you can have different reactions to the 5 to 1 ratio. One reaction is, well, that's impossible. You know, this isn't Fantasy Island, Thane. Well, this is photo proof, actually, that we are closer to Fantasy Island than we might think. The other reaction is, well, Thane, I don't hit the 5 to 1 ratio, and it seems like my teams are doing okay. I'm okay as a leader. And that might be true, but think of how much more effective you might be as a leader if you actually hit the 5 to 1 ratio. The other reaction is sort of the SCAR response. Life's not fair. My supervisor doesn't praise me on the 5 to 1 rule, so why should I? Well, the reason is that you will be more effective as a leader and that your team will rally around you more. The mechanism for the 5 to 1 ratio is probably emotional. There's a lot of basic research that shows that negative emotions tend to stick to us, and we hold on to them more than positive emotions. Hopefully not too many people in the room can identify with this, but the fact of the matter is, in most of our roles, there's things that are unpleasant or negative. And so it's super important that we have social buffers and that our own interactions lift up and support each other. So in preparation for this talk, I did a little behavior analytic study using behavior analytic tools and methods. And I watched my interactions with my team members and other colleagues at Trinity. And what did I find? Well, one of the things that I found is that when people give me assignments or tasks, I tend to feel bad. And chances are, when I give people that report to me tasks, they probably feel bad too. And so the key is to make sure that we recognize performance and when people are coming through for us and say thank you. The second reality is that the people who report to me have to bring me bad news sometime. This is a birthday cake from the behavioral health team. And what's really important is when people are delivering bad news, it's super important that you do your best to be positive and to have ideas on how to provide solutions. This is an award that I get every year because the behavioral health team members stay in line so much at this retreat. You probably don't see this. It's given to me in private. And I'm sure that this year will be no exception. Now, there is a place for constructive feedback or criticism. And sometimes people are sort of given this praise sandwich rule, that if you're giving constructive feedback, give 2 positives to 1 negative, sort of sandwiching in between. I think that's a crap sandwich, and it will seem contrived to people. So I would say that we don't do that. The other thing is, in terms of praise, it's important to use our formal mechanisms like the Lillie Award. And this is sort of the Wall of Fame. These are the people who nominated the most people last year. The other thing that I think is really important is that our positive interactions can be positive even if they're not related to work. And so I've been very intentional about, with the behavioral health team, having retreats and things so that we can just enjoy each other's company. And I don't have time to talk about that mug. The other important thing is that praise isn't just something that a supervisor does for people that they supervise. During a really bad day last week, Trina came to me and said, "Hey, Thane, your team members really like you." I was like, "Really? Me?" And that really uplifted my day. And the other thing is, if you really want to make a behavior change, it's really important to track what you're doing. And the Fitbit was really helpful to people in terms of uplifting their amount of physical activity. And so I played around with different tools in preparation for this talk, and one of the tools that I actually liked best was a watch that I'm wearing here that was in that previous picture. And the cool thing here is that this will track two things at once. So you can track positives and you can track negatives with it. And so I spent a lot of time doing that. And it was very interesting to me just to really gauge how am I in terms of the 5-to-1. And the reality is that I'm not as good at the 5-to-1 as I would like to be. But this really anchored it for me and helped me really make a commitment to do a better job with my 5-to-1. If people want to see this watch, I bought a couple others. I would suggest that that we play around with this a little bit. I think it would be a very useful growth tool for most supervisors in our agency. And I'd like to just even, for people who are willing to take on this challenge, to sit down at breakfast in the cafeteria or something and sort of talk about what your experience is. And this final slide is really important because it's tempting when you wear this watch to track how people are interacting with you. Am I getting the positives? But really, you don't really have control over other people, but you do have control of yourself. And so I would submit that what's most important is to track your own 5-to-1 ratio and to build that up. Thank you.